let's get started and see how far we can get.
All right. So, what's your full name and when were you born?
Pardon me?
What's your full name and when were you born?
My full name is Jane Katkus, and I was born in 1950.
How far back can you remember? Like, how old's your earliest memories?
I'm not certain, but I think around somewhere between 2 and 3.
Okay. So, what was your home like? Who all lived with you? What was the living dynamic? Like, who was in what room? How far away was your school? How'd you get there? Stuff like that.
Well, if you want to start at the beginning, we had a 2-room house, no, 3-room house, a kitchen and an eating area, a little living room, and a bedroom. And when it started out, there was no neighbors anywhere nearby. There was my mom and dad and my older sister Sue and me.
Okay. All right. So, where'd you guys go to school?
Well, when we started school, we moved every year for several years, because in Willow, where we lived when I was born and when your mom was born, there weren't any schools.
Oh.
So we had to move 27 miles south to the homestead, where we didn't have a house yet either. And my dad built a little cabin-type shack, actually, out of railroad ties.
Oh.
That had a dirt floor and a door, no windows. And I don't remember what the roof or the covering was made of or done, how that was done.
So, where did you guys stay while you were waiting for that house to be built on the homestead?
Probably at Willow.
Okay. So, when you did start going to school, how'd you guys get there? Was there a bus, or did you, walk? How far did you walk?
When Sue, my older sister, you remember Sue, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your auntie?
Yeah.
When she went to school, we lived in town in Wasilla for a while in one of the railroad buildings, housing buildings, because my dad worked for the railroad. And Sue went to elementary school in Wasilla, and that was a walking distance. And I remember one time walking with my mother to go pick Sue up at school. And that was probably quarter to a half a mile.
Okay.
That was just for a year or two, I think.
Okay.
And your mom would have been an infant at that point.
So, what was school like? Was school the same for boys and girls? Did you guys go to the same schools?
Yes.
Okay.
And there were very few kids, because there weren't many. It was in the Matanuska Valley, there were hardly any people that even lived there. Probably not 300 people in the entire area at that point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they were spread out all over the place. Rarely did anybody have a close-by neighbor, unless you were right in town, which we were at that point when Sue started school. There were a few people that lived in town, such as it was, but it was all, dirt, gravel streets, and, just...
Yeah.
I'm not sure of a good word to describe it other than barely civilized.
Okay.
By today's standards, it was like, oh man, middle of nowhere, literally.
Yeah. Did so you said your dad worked at the railroad. Was that the only job that he had, or did he kind of move jobs?
Nope, that's the only job he had. He was a section laborer on the Alaska railroads, and he worked mostly out of Willow, the Willow station, and that's the only job he held his whole life. And he retired at, I don't know, I think he might have been early 60s.
Okay.
Because his back, he was the original family member with the back issues, so he couldn't work anymore, so he retired.
Yeah. Did your mom work?
Nope.
Okay. How do you think life was different for you when you were a kid than it is for kids today? And not just, like, in technology, but, like, expectations and such.
Expectations. We were expected to grow up civilized, respect our elders, go to school, do as well as you can in school, and we were constantly reminded by everyone, teachers, parents, friends, the few times we were around any of them, that you better learn a lot, do the best you can, because once you're done with school, you're going to be out on your own, and all you're going to have is yourself to count on. You don't have anybody else to rely on.
Yeah. How far did you get into school? Did you do the full all the way to senior?
Yes, I graduated.
Awesome. Do you remember how much things used to cost? Back when you were like a teenager or a young adult?
As a teenager, we were living at the homestead out in, on the homestead, and for a little while again in Willow. And things were fairly inexpensive back then. I'm not sure how it would translate, you know, if you did the calculations to do
like how much
inflation
it's worth
and
now,
everything
yeah.
over the years. So there was one point when I think I was just high school, that my mom and dad were having this little tiff, which they rarely had, but when they did, it lasted about 3 weeks at a time. And my was mad at my, and he was still working in Willow at the time. Like I said, I was a senior in high school, so he stayed in Willow for a couple weeks at a time, and he gave Mother like $35 for groceries to last 2 weeks.
Whoa.
For 5 kids and herself.
Wow.
So that gives you some idea. Things were inexpensive, but we also did a lot of subsistence living. We grew our own, a lot of our own vegetables, potatoes. We grew our own beef. We had cows. We had chickens. So we had eggs. We had rabbits.
Yeah. So self-sustaining, pretty much.
Yes.
So, was everybody in your family able to attend school?
Yes, of course.
Right. Do you remember any wars? Which wars do you remember?
The only war I remember when it was going on was the Vietnam War. But my parents were both survivors of World War II. And my dad was a veteran of World War II. When he escaped out of Lithuania, he was 17. And that was a few years after the Russians had finally left. Lithuania, and Lithuania was a free country for about 20 years. And then the build up to the 30s, when World War II was about to start, when Hitler was really getting rolling, my dad got out of Lithuania just ahead of the Nazi invasion.
Yeah.
So when he left Lithuania, went to Brooklyn, New York, where his mother was living. She had left him, abandoned him when he was 3 years old. And so anyway, he ended up going to stay with her, and he was 17 at the time. And when World War II broke out, he immediately joined the army to go defend his new homeland.
Yeah. So, how old were you when that war was going on, the Vietnam War?
I'm a teenager in high school when it started, and then when it finally ended, I was 19, 20. When did it end? 72? 72, 70. I think it ended in about 72 or 73, so I was like 22, 23 then when it ended.
Okay. How did people react? Were they, like, jumping to sign up? Were they scared? What was, like, the general public's reaction?
Several of the young boys in high school, when I was in high school, like 2 of them that were your mom's age in school, so that was 2 years younger than me even. They were like 16, 17. They lied about their age to join the army to go fight in Vietnam. Other ones, they signed up to join, but the draft was enacted too.
Yeah. So a lot of people didn't really have a choice.
The ones that didn't want to make that choice or the sacrifice left the country and went to Canada. And boy, were they unwelcome to ever come back.
In your lifetime, what do you think has been society's greatest challenge?
Well, that's a tough one because there's a few of them, and I'm not sure which one would be the greatest. Right now, looking back, I think it would probably amount to being how so many people have so moved away from common sense, being a moral, God-fearing people that this country was built on, because our Constitution is made for a moral and just society. It's based on the Judeo-Christian values. It's not Judeo-Christian theology and religion, it's the values. And if you look at the Bill of Rights, it follows a lot of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor,
like
stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, so, the way so many have drifted so far from that, it's turning into, it's just awful. Look around. Look at last night, the attempted assassination again of the President of the United States.
Oh, God. I didn't even see about that.
Yep. And that was the third attempt. And I remember like it happened yesterday when President Kennedy was assassinated. I remember where I was, and I remember people were horrified. The whole country, it was like a dark cloud came over the country for quite a while. And then we got hit with both Robert Kennedy RFK Jr.'s father was assassinated, and then Martin Luther King was assassinated. And for people to be so hateful and so spiteful today that just because they disagree politically, that they think murder, public assassination, murder is okay. That, oh man, the depravity that's the biggest challenge, is living a moral and just life. Even 2 tiers of justice now. You have, the claims of, the oppressed and the oppressors. Well, no, that's not right. That's not true. And the way people have misled themselves or let themselves be misled to believe such foolishness is incredible.
Yeah. So, are they the only ones that you remember being assassinated? Where do you remember any more?
Those are the 3 major ones that I remember. I mean, come on, that's 50 years ago. Of course,
fair.
It's not like 10 years ago that, you might remember. This is 50 years ago for me.
Oh, yeah. What kind of work have you done in your lifetime? I know you worked at a cell phone company.
Yes. I was the first employee at the one of the 2 first wireless companies here in Anchorage, but that was the last job I worked at for 21 years that I ended up retiring from. But when I first started working, it was in New York City, off Wall Street. Well, I went to business school first in Brooklyn when my mom and dad left your mother and me in New York with my dad's mother, our grandmother.
Yeah.
And Maggie finished 2 years of high school back there, and I finished, it was supposed to be 2 years, but I finished it in 10 months because I didn't like it, and I was good enough to complete and meet their requirements after 10 months. And then I started working at a off Wall Street brokerage house.
Okay.
And then I moved on to another one and worked there, and then I came back to Alaska, and then I worked in Sitka for a year and a half, and then I came back to Anchorage, and blah, blah, blah.
So, what observations can you make about changing the American standard of living and how you can change economic health?
Well, that's not my specialty, but people need to stop assuming they're owed something, that somebody else owes them a living, that somebody else ought to be taking responsibility for them. Everybody's got their hands out. They want, rather than work for it.
Yeah.
And people need to get back to the business of earning a living and not expect handouts. And there was a time when I was a kid in high school and growing up, people would not admit being on welfare if they were. It was so embarrassing to have to take public handouts, government handouts. Man, nobody would admit doing that if they didn't have to. Wow, that was just the shame of all shame.
So, who was your least favorite president and why?
President during my lifetime or all time?
All time will do.
Pardon me?
All time is perfect.
Well, sad to say, all time to me, even though going back to George Washington times, the all-time worst to me is Joe Biden.
Why?
Second would be Barack Obama. What they did to America is a disgrace.
In what way?
Pretty much every way. The moral decline, the handouts, the fraud, the corruption. The corruption is just awful. encouragement of people to be dependent on government, and they all have ulterior motives too. It's all, a lot of people don't realize it, don't recognize it, don't want to believe it, but what it actually is, and you may see it in your lifetime. I hope I don't have to see it, but it's obvious what's coming is if they win, they're going to turn America into a communist country.
So, who's your favorite president and why?
My favorite president would be George Washington, and, well, I have more than one favorite. It would be George Washington and Abraham Lincoln for openers. And Reagan was a really good president, and like him or not, gruff as he is and rough around the edges and crusty and all that, President Trump is going to end up, history will name him the best president up until the present day.
Okay. Who were the politicians and or the causes that you remember supporting?
I didn't get into politics or pay any attention to it until I was well into my late 40s, early 50s.
Okay. Are the Americans more politically divided today than they were earlier in your lifetime?
Yes.
Yes. How has the role of women in the home, workplace, and community changed in your lifetime?
Dramatically. Women used to be expected to be the caregivers, caretakers, the stay-at-home moms, the cooks, the cleaners, the raiser of children. And for the longest time, that worked out just fine. And then I don't know exactly when it started or who started it, but then, women started wanting to be more equal and do more and get out more. And, that would all be fine, but they took it too far. I remember when feminism started, I was living in New York, and that's when the Cosmopolitan magazine came out. Studio 54 was all the rage, and it was burn your bras and, act like an idiot, and it's taken off from there. And then it's kind of taken a left turn from that, dramatic left turn, literally left. It's turned ugly. Women are the most hateful, spiteful, awful things. I don't even know what to call them. When it comes to political involvement, they're horrible. Women, liberal leftist women are the most awful things that have happened to American culture in a long time. And it's not all of them, but the overeducated ones that grew up without any hardship in life. They didn't have to struggle for anything. Their struggles were, where's my new iPhone? Where's all my clothes? Where's my handouts? Where's everybody bowing down to me? Where's all my worshipers? Where's TikTok? Where's, come on.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that, how do I phrase this? Let's see. Compared to when you were younger, how is the visibility different for Americans who are immigrants, different religions, and like LGBT?
There was never a problem with it before. Before Obama and Biden started harping on it like they did, it wasn't really an issue until illegal immigration got to be such a big deal. And America primarily was built on immigration, but it was legal immigration. And both of my parents and my dad's grandparents were legal immigrants, and it took years to get through the process to finally gain citizenship. And people took the time to do it. And even to this day, it still needs to be revised to make it a simpler process. But too many have too many arguments about how to go about that. Like, we have, who knows how many, 20, 30, 40 million illegals here already. And one certain party won't agree to the changes unless all of those illegal people, the ones that came here illegally, are granted amnesty, full amnesty and citizenship. And that is just wrong, because that puts all those people in front. It's like taking cuts in line, in front of all the ones that have come here legally and are still going through the process to become citizens that really want to. And you've got a massive number of people who don't want to become Americans. They want America to become what they want it to be, not what it already is. The shining light on the hill, the beacon of hope, the best thing that's ever happened to this world. They want to take capitalism and turn it into communism, which is just anywhere ever, all through history. And this idea that so many elites have, and higher education results of, communism and socialism and Marxism, it just wasn't done right. It wasn't, we know how to do it right. Yeah, that's what they've all said all along, and it never works, because the one thing they never factor in is human nature.
Yep.
Human nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an epic failure. So freedom, our rights come from God, not government. If government gives you a right, they can also take it away. God's rights granted are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And without that, you got nothing but a bunch of drones and controllers. Then you really have the oppressed and the oppressors.
If you could live your life over, would you do anything differently?
Yes, I would be, and I can't really fault anybody for it, having, looked back and reflected on this an awful lot for a long time now. We weren't subjected to or surrounded by or we didn't have influence from other people, the outside world, so we really didn't know what was available to us for learning, for jobs to seek, for things to work towards, to try and build on, to educate ourselves, to discover something that looked like it would be really interesting to do, and then to start working toward and striving to achieve it. We had no idea. So that's one thing I would change, is an awareness of the availabilities and possibilities in life.
Yeah. What advice would you give to future generations?
Man, smarten up before it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Because after 75 years of watching what's going on today, if it keeps going the way it's headed, it's not going to have a good turnout. It is going to get ugly. But maybe that's the cycle that happens all through history, too, is, there comes something really good and really positive, and everybody's happy with it. And then you've got the ones that, oh, we can do it better. We'll do it this way. Nobody did it right the last time. We'll try this one again. And, yeah, we really know how to make it work this time. Well, no, you don't. No, they didn't. And guess what? It's going to be a massive failure again. Everybody's going to be miserable. Everybody's going to finally realize it. They'll all be up in arms. And the only way to get out of it, like they say, you can vote your way into Marxism, socialism, and capitalism. I mean, socialism, communism, Marxism, you can vote your way into it. You have to shoot your way out of it.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything else important that I should know?
Do your own research. Don't believe anything you hear. Read for yourself. Learn who the sources are. Don't hate. Don't believe one side or the other. Don't subscribe to party lines, because nobody gets it right. Everybody needs to relearn how to think for themselves, make up their own minds. And first of all, you have to learn the difference between right and wrong, because that's a fact of life. The other thing people need to understand and believe and really get a grip on, because it's showing its ugly face now in a big way. There is good and evil in this world, and it's real. And the evil is raising its ugly head. And, you know, as far as that kind of stuff goes, people poo-poo religion, and they really shouldn't. There's certain religions you shouldn't fall for. One of the biggest fallacies that people fall for, and, you know, America's great. We have a constitution that protects religious freedom and religious rights. People are misled when they think that Islam is a religion. It's not. It's a religion combined with the overriding factor of it's a political movement. It's not just religion. It's also politics. And that is where that one goes off the rails.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Janie. I really appreciate it.
Well, hey, you're welcome. I'm not sure that you buy into the same beliefs as me, but that's fine that you don't, but at least think it through, and that's the advice I would give everybody. Be open-minded, pay attention to your surroundings, don't be narrow-minded, don't think you know it all, because trust me, at 75, I know I still don't know it all and never will, and nobody should think they do. That's a fool's errand.
Yes, ma'am. All right. I love you very much, Janie. I'm going to go get this recording all set up.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.